Lovely to meet you, and I absolutely loved season 2, and especially episode 2. The rest can't wait to watch what we have. But Charlotte, I want to ask you, it's interpreting this vast world of Tolkien. And I see in the Middle-earth, the women are extremely strong. What was, I would say, subconsciously or consciously at the subliminal level, what was your interpretation and your perspective, point of view that you brought into this narrative?
Well, I guess it was to respect the women, but they were already very well written by our showrunners, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. They had really, they loved strong women, and they wrote them that well. So when I read the script the first time, that was a joy because I loved that way. And here is you very strong woman.
Yeah.
And then what I do is that I just give very, very small notes to the actors just to make sure that we stay on that level. So I remembered, we spoke about that earlier, I remember saying to Cynthia, when she discovered that she was blind in season 1, that the most important that she doesn't feel sorry for herself because she's a strong woman. Because she could have cried at that moment.
Absolutely.
And it would have made sense, but we decided that she would not cry, that she would just remain very, very dignified, very sitting on her horse and not showing any feelings because she was strong.
And I'm so happy the season has been directed by women, you know, so it gives a different perspective, I would say, the feminine gaze. That's what I meant to ask you. How different is the feminine gaze?
I don't know. It's like, I feel like we're all directors because people say, how could you, the fact that 3 women get trusted with this huge budget, I always say, why not? Why wouldn't we be able to,
Absolutely.
Right? We might have a female president soon, so look at Mexico as a female president.
Yes, of course.
So why not, right?
Of course. And Cynthia, I like your character, but you somewhere also feel sorry for her for the decisions she's taken, and then there's the push and pull between the 2 characters. When you got her, what was that one thing that you picked on about her, saying that this is what I'm going to work on and then the rest will follow?
It's interesting because, you know, at the beginning of the casting process, I always think back to it where we actually didn't know initially.
Yeah.
You know, when I was auditioning, I didn't know what the journey of this character was ultimately going to be. And then when I did find out, you know, she existed in Tolkien's lore, but then the showrunners were going to sort of fill in the blanks, as it were. And I, too, had some room to kind of interpret and think about things. And I think for me, like, one of the biggest challenges was this blindness aspect of things, because obviously, you know, we're in a fantasy world, so I think there is some room to sort of consider how that, what the reality of that is within the context of this story. But I just wanted to make sure that Miriel never appeared diminished in the sense that she's, you know, flailing around. I felt like here's a woman who is assured in certain ways and then uncertain in others. But I didn't want that to manifest by her kind of fumbling and really being weakened and disabled. That was never my take. And so I thought, what an interesting challenge to sort of have this blindness, but still have her move through the world in this sort of assured way. So that was like a big thing that I appreciated being given, you know, being entrusted with as an actor.
Awesome. And Tristan, your character, I kind of feel bad for him also, but then I feel that this whole sense of pride that he has a very twisted sense, the character has a very twisted sense of pride. And, you know, what was that like? Because maneuvering this character, because somewhere you feel bad for what he's been through, but then his whole...
Yes. Yes, it's a very interesting conversation to have, you know, which could, I mean, you could spend all day talking about it, but I think as well that he typifies a people that have had to overcome nature and have had to ask themselves very hard questions. I don't think they've had the answers yet, but they have definitely become very disenchanted over many generations, and it's coming to a head with him. I think he's got a lot to... everything that Miriel has done up until now, I think he's got to answer for. I think as well to the people of Numenor. So there's a lot of responsibility and accountability and things that he didn't do. I mean, so he's showed some impulse control, and yet, by proxy, he has to sort this mess out. So there's a lot of responsibility to this, though. So it's not as cut and dried as, oh, you know, some people say he's Machiavellian, which, of course, Niccolo Machiavelli, that was, he wrote that as a kind of survival guide, didn't he, in very precarious times. So he gets a bad rap as well. So it's, you know, it's a very, I think, a deeply misunderstood character, I think.
Totally, I understand the politics of Middle-earth, but I want to ask you, is catering to the old and new fandoms? Because there is that loyal Tolkien fandom. There are also the new ones who are being ushered in. How do you balance that? Also, this is a world that you're ushering in, this new fantasy world. So, what is it like?
I think it's always to find like an edge. I mean, like to balance a fine line between everything, and you pay attention to the fan base, to everything that's being said, and then you try to do something that really works, and that's really good.
I think you have to serve the story first and foremost.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's easy to be distracted by, you know, what everyone wants it to be or thinks it should be.
Yeah.
But I think you have to serve both audiences. So absolutely, we have all of the characters that are known, the Easter eggs for loyalists and fans who know this intimately. But I often think, to be honest, about my mother. My mother watches the show, and my mother has never read the books, and she has never seen the movies. And I want her to be able to also understand and follow along and enjoy. So I think you can service both audiences, but I think first and foremost, it's honoring the story that Tolkien sort of, or the world that he created.
Absolutely. And it's staying true to the characters.
Absolutely.
And I think we can all, you know, everybody can relate to every species it's a very heterogeneous world, isn't it? But it's also a fantastical world, as with fantasy, that you can not only lose yourself, but you can imagine yourself as being a better version of yourself, you know? So you can maybe right some wrongs in your own imagination, and that's what that allows you to do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All the very best. Looking forward to the forthcoming episodes and the seasons. All the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely to see the three of you. As I say, that my journey continues with the Rings of Power. So what has it been like, this mammoth task at season 2, which I thoroughly enjoyed?
Oh, thank you.
You know, basically, just think it's a very daunting task because you're recreating a world where there's no reference, just creating a world of your own. What has it been like?
You know, you take it on one day at a time. My co-showrunner Patrick often says, "How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time." So that's what we do. You know, just everything. I mean, not that I've ever had the experience of eating an elephant, but so every day we look at the task in front of us and we just say, what can we accomplish that day? And sometimes it's writing a storyline. Sometimes it's conceiving of a whole arc. Sometimes it's choosing one person in terms of casting. Oftentimes it's many different things that day. But each day is its own challenge, filled with all kinds of different interesting, creative opportunities.
I'm sure. And Nori and Poppy, I'm going to call you by your screen names. I mean, you were characters that were written for the series. Now, having lived them over, say, 2 seasons, have you understood them more? And how do you relate to them?
Yeah, definitely. I think what's so amazing is I've never done a season 2 of something. And so I've never had the experience of coming back to a series after a period of time. And I kind of found that I really had to learn how to trust myself, and that the work that I'd done for season 1 still remained within me. And sort of refinding her and actually realizing that she was still within me somewhere. And also, I mean, the love that I have for Markella, is still there and was always there. So, that side of things was very easy to pick up.
Awesome. And what about you, Markella?
I think something, obviously, it's been a few years, so we've grown as people as well. So there's a certain amount of life experience that you can bring to the characters now as the second season, which is really exciting too. And the characters are in a completely different place. So it was also, I think we got asked what was a challenging part of it, and I've just realized this now as well, just mapping out where the character is when we pick up with her and building that backstory of what happened in between was also really important. And I hope that it resonates.
And so much of each of them is in their characters too. We had sort of ideas for what they would be, but as soon as we cast them, the characters changed again. Megan brings such a fun, dry humor to Poppy. Like that shifted from our initial interpretation. Then once we saw exactly what her interpretation was, I was like, oh wow, that's such a cool register to put her in. So we really leaned into that.
I know it's funny that I know you all by your screen names. I'm just talking to everyone hi Theo, hi this. But it's interesting, in Tolkien's verse, the women were a little underrepresented, but I find here there's a very strong representation, and you've also got Charlotte on board. Do you think there was a change in perspective in terms of her vision vis-a-vis, say, had you directed it?
Well, I mean, I don't have Charlotte's skill set or background, so yes, it would be very different if I directed it. But she's wonderful to work with. I mean, we had her for 2 episodes in the first season, episode 6 and 7, which we ended up absolutely loving. So he said, yes, more of that, please, and brought her back as a producing director, season 2, to direct 4 episodes, which would stretch any human being. And Charlotte handled the pressure with enormous grace and poise, and was able to deliver both the beginning of the season and the end of the season in a way that was absolutely spectacular. We can't wait for people to see it.
Awesome. And what about you, the women, you know, as I say, in Tolkien's verse? So what was it like playing these 2 adorable half-foot girls, whom I absolutely love?
I mean, thank you. I think that I love the duality of them, to them both. I just think that they're very dynamic, and they're not one or the other. Yeah. They're not like just very sweet and then that's it. They're sweet, but they're also resilient and stoic and challenging and irritating and irritable, but very loving and very caring. So I just love that they're multifaceted, and it feels very truthful, and that's a credit to the showrunners and the directors.
Yeah, I completely agree. Their sort of well-roundedness is a real testament to the writing and the character creation as well. And you know, as sort of JD said already, like because there's also elements of us within the characters too. I can really feel that whenever I play Poppy. Obviously, she is her own entity, but yeah, and it's a real honor to be part of this project and to be working in this industry, and also to be supported by the people that we're supporting with. We're in such great company, and I can't thank everyone enough.
Yeah.
Awesome, lovely chatting with you. I can see that in the work, and more power, rings of power.
Can't wait to see season 2.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, and all the very best.
Thank you.
If you've liked this interview, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram.